Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining and actively participating in PDO's annual Process Safety Day. My name is Aisha, and I will be the host for today's session. The theme for this year is Effectively Learning from Incidents. You might recall the 2019 Process Safety Day, where we had a similar theme with a focus on the Marmal tank incident. And here we ask, are we reliving the past? Are we just scratching the surface? The answer would most probably be yes. Worldwide, inadequate LFI processes have been cited as contributing factor in major accidents, such as in transportation accidents involving road travel, shipping, aircraft, space travel, chemicals and oil and gas accidents. Failure to learn from previous incidents often resulted in repeat and sometimes even bigger incident. Good process safety management is about safe design, responsible operation, good maintenance, and learning effectively from previous incidents. Looking around, it is no surprise that industries such as aviation, nuclear, and pharmaceuticals, which have the best safety records, are also the ones with the strongest methodologies in investigating incidents and learning from them. In PDO, analysis of our Tier 1 process safety incidents from the last 5 years show that more than 60% of our incidents still have an element of repetition. This is a clear indication that we are missing out on learning and corrective opportunities. Ineffective and slow learning from incident can make us vulnerable. We need to do better in effectively learning from incidents. Following a major accident, we commonly hear the phrase, "We must learn from this." Indeed, this has become such a normalized statement that one may think that learning lessons is a natural and automatic process. We investigate the incident and in some cases send out an awareness or action alert with learnings to a broad group of recipients. However, this one-way broadcasting does not assure us that the lessons are really understood and implemented. Simply because a meeting was held, an alert was created, or an email was sent does not mean that learning has occurred. Learning is not just acquisition of new knowledge, but also taking right actions to eliminate, control, or mitigate the risks. It involves new conclusions or beliefs about how things work. Having learned from an incident can mean different things to different people. For example, it could mean that the investigation team has understood how and why an incident had occurred. Or it could mean that some people now know how to prevent it from happening again. This is surely not enough, and we need a more holistic approach. Effective learning has two goals: ensuring we have correctly identified and implemented a set of mitigation measures, such as making required changes to our hardware, software, or procedures to prevent reoccurrence, and conducting staff engagements to successfully improve understanding, influence beliefs and values, thereby enhancing risk perception and driving desired behaviors. Learning from an incident cannot just be disseminating information, but also giving people the opportunity to understand the incident, reflect on it, and take actions to reduce risk. Everybody needs to understand the context of the incident to draw insights so they can apply them to their workplace. This process involves hardwiring changes so that in case of staff turnover, measures to prevent a repeat incident stay in place. So, the question is, what stands in the way of our learning? The reasons can be either psychological or systemic. Many times, we find ourselves in a state of denial. The very idea that the incident that happened over there can also happen here has got unsettling implications. So, an us versus them kind of mentality emerges, where we attempt to identify reasons, that though this happened to them, of course, it would never happen to us. We start to justify. We would never respond that way. We have our process to protect us from that. We wouldn't do something like that. We are way more careful than they are. That shift is always like that. That's not how we are. We start to think that the differences between them and us makes us safe, and we get trapped into a false sense of security. This is something that can happen at multiple levels when hearing about an incident at another location. Just being mindful that such a phenomenon exists in our psychology helps us to counteract this tendency. Another psychological barrier to learning is when our past successes or familiarity breeds complacency. We can become overconfident and start to overestimate our ability to control the factors in our environment and ignore the learnings. An example can be, we didn't follow the operating procedure, but nothing happened, so it's okay to continue in the same way. Every one of us is prone to become complacent, and we need to make a continuous effort to guard against it. The systemic deficiencies that can come in the way of learning include not reporting or investigating the incidents, insufficient depth of investigations, which leads to remedial actions not being smart, overload of investigation recommendations, insufficient engagements with the assigned action party and unrealistic target date, failure to check that implemented changes have effectively addressed underlying causes, learnings not available or developed too late in the investigation process, wrong messaging by focusing mostly on what went wrong and not enough on how to do it right, no assurance that learnings are prioritized, shared, and above all, understood. And finally, lack of time and resources dedicated to help people understand the lessons. We cannot conclude that we have learned unless we know for sure that things are being done differently. And we have addressed the causes of the incident effectively and sustainably.